Dang nabbit. Okay, so I don't even know if I can see even like the gray circle moving. I don't think you guys can hear me. Maybe I'll type it. Can you hear me? Andrew? Oh, good. Thank you. I could have been here all day. Wondering. It's staticky? Mm. Is that any better? Any better? Now it's quiet. Well, I don't know how to make it louder. Hola, Sam. Hola, Mr. Rock. Because I was singing Guess Who's Back. All right. Top 5 answers on the board. Name something people get on and off of. Name something people get on and off of. A train is right. They don't have a plane, but that would be right, I would think. Mr. Rocket. So far, even though planes should be on there, well, here's the disability, a chair, a bench, a swing. I mean, there's all kinds of things. It's a silly question. We could be here all night with that one. Nope, I see an elevator. Everything could be. I was hoping Tiffany H stops in because I wanted to tell her about Tim Horton. I did research. And I mean, I was so, like, impressed when I read about, like, oh, they do all this or stuff, like philanthropy and stuff. And, but at the end of it, there was something that I was like, oh, that's too bad, you know? And the thing is like when somebody takes a cash settlement for, like, say it's an SA or something, right? And they take a cash settlement, isn't that kind of like aiding and abetting a criminal in doing what they're doing? Because, I mean, oh, okay, so this person can pay somebody even though they committed a crime. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like kind of like, oh well, if somebody's like a billionaire, and you guys remember that book Where the Sidewalk Ends, Shel Silverstein. I like Shel Silverstein. Ironically, ironically, Tim Horton died in a car accident. He didn't have a seatbelt on. He didn't have a seatbelt on. Sorry. I love Shel Silverstein too. What's a recessed sewer? Oh my God, could you imagine being thrown 123 feet from a car? I was watching a video the other night where this guy, okay, so this guy was making a video about, climbing to the top of, I don't know, some mountain near him, which is snow covered, but he really wasn't like dressed for it or prepared for it or anything. But he made it up there, and then he decides like to go live, and you hear this big crack, and all of a sudden, like, because he had placed the camera, so that he could go live, he had placed it down. But then next thing, he's sliding down off the edge of it, and he's trying to grab everything he could possibly grab, but like nothing was working out for him. Hey, Maureen. And he fell off over the edge 3,200 feet. 3,200 feet. So, in case anybody was wondering about Tim Horton, he was a hockey player. The whole, the coffee dilemma and everything, okay? Now, I'd say the reason why, like, they're expensive, right? Okay, they are expensive, Tim Hortons, okay? But everybody who was giving, Tiffany a hard time about going to Tim Hortons and spending money and all that stuff, just so you guys know, Tim Hortons actually does a huge amount of philanthropy work. I mean, they literally they give so much. Honest to God, they really, really do. Let me tell you guys what they do. Okay, so after his death, after Tim Horton's death, um his partner, okay, Jim Joyce, I think his name is. Could be wrong. Roy Joyce. Ron Joyce. Oh, listen to me. Ron Joyce. Okay. He he founded the Tim Horton Children's Foundation, which sends underprivileged kids to camp each year. Joyce's efforts on behalf of the foundation earned him the Gary Wright Humanitarian Award in 1991 in recognition of outstanding takeover of my rent. No, you're all right. She's not rent. She can't take over your rent. they've given like millions and millions and millions of dollars to, like 52 million, and I just loads. But the same guy who did all that, it says in May 2011, an unnamed woman in her mid-30s alleged that the billionaire co-founder of Tim Hortons sexually assaulted her at his home. This alleged incident occurred when the woman, who is representing herself in court, spent the night at Joyce's home in Burlington, Ontario, so she could drive him to a medical appointment. A $50,000 out-of-court settlement was reached between the two parties. Representing herself. Kind of something else there. But now that wasn't Tim Horton. That's Ron Joyce, his partner. Okay? Tim Horton was a hockey player. Oh, he did. What's going to happen to him now? He could still run for president if he's a criminal. So crazy. I know. In my opinion. So he was a hockey player in Canada. I didn't know there was somebody, or 83 million, 23 million. What are you guys talking about? Who got that? So when he died, Tim Horton, he lost control of his De Tomaso Pantera sports car on the Queen Elizabeth Way in St. Catherine, Ontario, in the early morning of February 21st, 1974. He had played a game in Toronto the previous evening against his former team and was driving alone back to Buffalo. The Sabres had lost the game, and despite sitting out the third period and playing with a jaw and ankle injury, he was selected as one of the game's 3 stars. On his drive to Buffalo, Horton stopped at his office and was met there by Ron Joyce. While there, Horton phoned his brother, Jerry, who recognized that Tim had been drinking and tried to persuade him not to continue driving. Who's that? Is that the woman that sued him? $83 million? Probably won't ever get it. Probably get turned over. Joyce offered to have Horton stay with him, and Horton chose to continue his drive to Buffalo. After 4 a.m., a woman reported to the Ontario Provincial Police in Burlington that she had observed a car driving at high speed on Queen Elizabeth Way. A warning was broadcast over police radio. 30 minutes later, wow, this timeline. Oh, okay. You can remove that then. Officer Mike Gula observed a speeding vehicle traveling Niagara-bound on Queen Elizabeth Way. Gula activated his siren and attempted to pursue Horton's vehicle, but lost sight of it. I wonder how fast one of those things can go. A De Tomaso Pantera? Man, that just seems like he should have already been home. Horton passed the curve in the road at Ontario Street and was approaching the Lake Street exit in St. Catharines when he lost control and drove into the center grass median, where his tire caught a recessed sewer, which caused the car to flip several times before it came to a stop on its roof in the Toronto-bound lanes. Not wearing a seatbelt, Horton was found 123 feet from the car. Hey, Silas. Brent, how you doing? Man, that just does not seem, I mean, that seems kind of fishy, doesn't it? I mean, but the fact that the guy that, was his partner and was doing all this philanthropy work and stuff, but I mean, kind of makes it like, okay, well, to say that this guy was shady seems, like kind of, oh, but then again, I mean, oh, thank you, Dark. Like, right? Right, Tanger? Like, it's like, it goes subsequent to Horton's death, there was no official public inquiry, and his autopsy was not made public. Police would not state whether Horton was intoxicated. In 2005, Horton's autopsy was made public, with witness statements redacted, and revealed that Horton's blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit and that a half-filled vodka bottle was amongst the crash debris. I believe that it would probably have broken, in my opinion. I mean, if it was several times and shit. Horton was also in the possession of the drugs dexedrine. Isn't that like a diet pill? A stimulant, and dexamyl, a stimulant sedative. Traces of amobarbital, an ingredient in dexamyl, were found in his blood. The autopsy report found no painkillers in his body and also concluded that his car had been in good working order. There was nothing to suggest Horton was evading police or that police were near enough to initiate a criminal pursuit. That doesn't even make sense. Following Horton's death, Ron Joyce offered Horton's widow $1 million for her shares in the chain, which included 40 stores. She accepted his offer, and he became the sole owner. Wow. Wow. $1 million for 40 stores. I mean, how Ass can, what do they call it? What do you say? Yeah, I know, there is a fine for that. That's really incredible to me. So how you guys doing? Good? It's freaking been hot lately, right? Hasn't it? Hot. I feel like it's been hot. Hey, bud tender. Okay, guys. I'm gonna have a story. We're gonna have a story now. Since Starklight, like, the quiet town of Malden, Massachusetts, is located just north of Boston. The town was originally settled in 1640 and was once a part of Charlestown. In 1649, the town was incorporated. The majority of the settlement was built on scenic hills. The early inhabitants of Malden either engaged in farming or fishing, with the Mystic River nearby. In case you guys have never seen the movie Mystic River, you should check it out with Sean Penn. What a great movie. A really good movie. Really good movie. I think Kevin Bacon's in it too. Is Kevin Bacon in that? Tim Robbins. So good. Good movie. The community grew quickly. Some men became woodsmen and cleared the dense woods that had once existed in Malden. However, almost 200 years after Malden was settled, one of its residents chose a darker course of work. It was the mid-1800s, and Ephraim Gray lived in an old house in the center of town. That distinctive house was just as worn and wrinkled as its reclusive owner. Ephraim wasn't married, and he had no relatives or friends. His only companion was a male servant who tended to his needs. Moody, and some say misunderstood, this guy sounds like me. Ephraim, without the male servant though. Ephraim preferred lurking around his house during the nighttime hours, engaging in strange studies. Well, without this, it was said that odors of repulsive chemicals crept from his house. That's weird. And people passing by at night would choke and gasp at the horrid smell. Those who chose to look up into the windows of the ominous house saw looming shadows that many described as goblin-like in nature, and many people were afraid just to walk down that side of the street. Finally, in the year 1850, Ephraim was on his deathbed. He called to his servant and whispered with his last breath, "In my life, I have differed from other men. and by the foul fiend I will continue different after I am dead. My flesh is not common flesh like yours. It will never rot. Dark day. When his master passed, Ephraim's servant went to the police station and reported his employer's death. The servant stood to inherit Ephraim's entire estate. However, he did need to see that his master's final wishes were carried out. Ephraim's final request was that his body be left undisturbed from the time of his death until his interment in the local burial ground. That meant no autopsy, no embalming, no removal of fluids, or any disturbance to the flesh in any way. Why did they even do that in the 1850s? I mean, I knew they would probably do autopsies, but like embalming and stuff, I guess, probably, right? They did it to like entire. The local mortician was horrified at the request. He couldn't understand why Ephraim wouldn't want the usual procedure done to preserve his body. Ephraim's servant explained the strange reasoning behind the request. Ephraim was an accomplished chemist. We got one of those in the community. Chemist. Just kidding. And he had dedicated most of his later years to devising a formula and a method for a youthful elixir that could create immortality. I bet you Munchie is fucking real down with that. That thing. That thing. That thing. That thing. Despite the endless research and formulas, Ephraim's dream of eternal life was never fully realized. However, he made sure to ingest a potion every day that he strongly believed would keep his corpse fresh after death. Ephraim's wishes were honored, and his body was finally entombed 5 feet deep, why not 6, in the cold ground. The large tomb had an ornate iron door with a decorative granite gable, and those few souls who peered in between the railings of the door were now more curious than ever. It was about 20 years after Ephraim Gray's death that some curious medical students from Harvard University. Hey, Danny, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Some curious medical students from Harvard University began discussing the story of the mad scientist from Malden. They were interested in finding out if Ephraim's body still showed signs of life. How could it show signs of life after 20 years being entombed? I mean, seriously. So one night, the students climbed aboard a carriage, because it's 1870. In the late hours of the night, and took the ride from Cambridge to Malden. It was just after midnight as the carriage rode up to the old burial ground. The students cautiously looked around to make sure that they would not be seen. They went up to the gate, and after much effort, the group was able to push open the heavy iron door. They stepped on to the damp, mossy floor and walked over to the coffin. With a chisel, they pried the lid off the molding coffin. The lid was pushed back, and a cloud of dirt and dust puffed through the air. The students stared in shock at Ephraim Gray's body. While the clothing on his body was decaying, the body looked much like it had in life, except it had grown brown, hard, and dreadful looking. You think? Perhaps Ephraim's body-preserving elixir had worked to some extent. The students replaced the coffin lid and snuck back out of the tomb into the moonlit burial ground. After seeing the body for themselves, the students decided they would try to find out the formula for the preserving elixir. Weeks passed, and the students weren't any closer to finding any documentation or information about Ephraim's magical potion. I don't think it's too magical. I mean, the guy died. Maybe he died from the potion. Maybe he was, like, poisoning himself. Seriously. It doesn't seem magical to me. A fellow Harvard student had heard about his classmate's midnight escapade into the burial ground, and he himself doubted a man really had been entombed in Ephraim's coffin. He decided to take a solitary trip to the burial ground on a cloudy and blustery night. Maybe Winnie the Pooh is there. It's always blustery where he is. He entered the tomb alone, lit a lantern, and then unpacked a saw from his bag. He had decided that he would saw the head off the body so that he could take it home and examine it at his leisure. Thank you, Dark Light. Good night. You're never going to know what happened now. Well, I guess you could rewatch it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ditto. With a strong stomach, he proceeded to saw the head off the body. And just as he finished his gruesome task, he heard strange noises. He heard the sound of whispers. Coming from the dark corners of the tomb. Outside of the tomb, he could hear footsteps on the wet grass, and they sounded like they were coming closer. The whispers soon turned into moans and wails. And steady cries. The frightened student looked towards the mossy door to the tomb and saw strange shapes in the shadows moving closer towards him. And across the green, slimy wall, the once brave student yelled out for mercy. With a sickening thud, he flung his head onto the floor and ran. Oh, he flung the head. Not his head. He flung the head onto the floor and ran out of the tomb. He tripped over grave markers and stones with every frenzied step as he made his way across the burial ground. He didn't turn to look behind him, but ran home as fast as his legs were carrying him. Do you guys know that if you are ever running from somebody, that if you turn around, like, to look, you're taking seconds off your time getting away from mom. And I know it's probably pretty tempting to, like, want to turn around, but from what I've heard, you should. But if it's a bear, I don't think you're supposed to run. Many months passed before anyone else summoned up enough courage to go into the tomb. Adventurous boys would dare their friends to go into the tomb and look for Ephraim's missing head. One day, however, a man who was bathing in the river just before sunrise saw something that changed his life, and it came out of Ephraim's tomb. The man ran through the streets of Malden, what, naked? Like a streaker? Screaming that a white robe. Oh, I don't know anything about that. That's sad. A white robe figure had emerged from the tomb. It was soon determined that the figure was not a corpse, but an insane man who had crawled into Ephraim's house of death to sleep. The bathing man had been so frightened by seeing the strange specter that he refused to believe that what he saw was actually a live human being. He claimed to have been summoned by a ghost that day, and that the sighting was an omen of his death. From that point on, the man began to change. He became silent and self-absorbed, and it wasn't long until he was dead. Well, how long? I mean, how old is he? Was he running through the streets naked in the winter? I mean, a lot of things to consider. Ah, fuck. Guess what I recently developed? Sharon, I forgot to plug my phone in. I just. Okay, guys, hear me? You can't hear me? Stop it. Yes, you can. Now we're never going to know what happened in that story. No, sir. Unless you guys tell me if you can hear me. Yes, you can. Okay. By the early 1900s, the population of Malden had grown significantly, and it was decided that a road needed to be constructed where the old burial ground was. A decision was made to disinter the bodies and reinter them at a new burying location in the city. Things were going well for the workers until they started to dismantle Ephraim Gray's mausoleum. The roof and the walls dismantled easily enough. However, when the coffin was lifted, it was found to be unusually light. Workers decided to open the coffin on the spot, and when the lid was taken off, the coffin was discovered to be empty. Had Ephraim finally awakened from his slumber? Had he perhaps gone to search for his head? The rest of the old burial ground ended up being moved, but the remains of Ephraim Gray were never found. Just saying. What's been going on with you guys? Anything good? Dun, 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 dun. Fine, whatever. That means we're gonna have to come up here and talk to me. Hopefully I'll be able to hear you. It won't be like last night when Nitty tried to come in. CWC? She's scary, huh? I guess she was like really threatening Swiss Miss, like unhinged, like in ways of unhingedness, from what I heard. Like really getting unhinged. Oh, the CWC. Oh, I thought you said CWC, the person. What happened there? Guys, you're on the stage.
Hola.
Hi. Can you hear me?
No, I can't.
Hello?
Can you see me waving? Hello?
See, I might have to start a whole new live stream.
You can't hear me.
Because I can't hear you.
I won't tell nobody we were talking about doing anal last
night. Maybe I'll go out and come back in.
Who, you?
It's because I got that phone call, I think.
You want me to call you? You want me to show you how it's? You want me to show you how it's done?
Throw that right up there so you can see it. Hopefully.
Come on back.
Gotta be.
I'll be here. Do 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 do. Hey everybody, it's me. Hi. I just want to say hi. Hi. Do 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 do. I hope you can hear me. Do 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 do. Do, 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 do. Who's in my chat tonight? Let's see. I'm pushing the chat button. I'll be right back. Well, nobody's in the chat and I'm talking to myself. Well, I tell you one thing. You're a beautiful crowd. Beautiful crowd. And it's a real honor. A real honor. My privilege. Hopefully we have a good show for you tonight. Do, 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 do. As we wait for our host. I heard she's taking a dump. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Yeah. Nobody wants to chat with me. Wow. Why? Why doesn't nobody come to my chats? Hi, welcome back. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? It's probably best that way. Do, 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 do. Whole lot of bitches, lying bitches, a whole lot of bitches going on. Everybody, come on, let's sing. Whole lot of bitches, lying bitches, whole lot of bitches going on. SG, you might want to do this this live over. I don't think nobody can hear you. They probably don't want to hear me. Lying bitches, whole lot of bitches going on.